Welcome to Bone Voyage for episodes 7 and 8 of Skeleton
Bone
Crew.
Voyage Fry. Bone Voyage.
Paul, the Acolyte, has ended, but also the Skeleton Crew has also just recently ended. What a great introduction to the show. We're not going to redo it. Let's just crack on. The Acolyte has ended, and so they had to come up with a new show, and they came out with the Skeleton Crew. That's what I was going to say. And now it has also ended. Your feelings, Paul?
I've really enjoyed it. I didn't expect to enjoy it, but I really have. And I suspect, sadly, the viewing figures are because people also thought that it was going to be something other than it actually was. I think Jude Law's acting throughout has been superb. He
Yes,
really
yeah.
did play that role very well because that was a tricky one to do, finding that balance between a shifting personality, very much a Jekyll and Hyde kind of character that evolved from being uber pleasant to not very nice at all by the end of it. Um, and I thought the kids, they were so well cast. So often you'll get children of that age starring in. I mean, even in a contemporary show, it's difficult. But when you're in something that's sci-fi, fantasy, very difficult for a young mind to get its head around how to deliver the lines. And I think all the kids were brilliant. Even Neil, with his elephant trunk and everything else, he managed to get a persona coming through. Um, so yeah, I absolutely loved the show. Put it this way: at no point during the run of The Acolyte did I set my alarm to make sure that I was watching it at 2 in the morning. With this, I did.
There you go.
Um, yeah. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. What about yourself?
I did enjoy it. I didn't enjoy the finale. I was quite excited for the finale
Yeah,
after
yeah.
watching episode 7, and we'll get to that reasons in a moment. But I think my expectations for the finale were greater than it turned out to be.
Me
I
too.
was waiting
Me
for
too.
the big twist
Yeah.
or the big reveal. I think we'd all speculated, is Hondo going to make an appearance?
Yeah.
Is Renard going to be the supervisor? Will Snoke be the one that's behind it all? Is the
Yeah.
money going to the First Order, and is it funding the creation of that?
Yeah.
And I was all looking for the bigger answer and the bigger reveal, and it never really came. Um,
No.
Maybe that's my fault more than it is the show.
No, I agree. I agree. I think whilst it was, and we'll come on to it later on when we see it, but I thought it was a satisfactory conclusion, but it didn't make me jump out of my seat and go, nailed it, nailed
Yeah,
it. It
I
it
think they
wasn't quite.
left it in a way to give themselves scope for more.
Yeah.
Sadly,
Yeah.
if the ratings that are being reported by Nielsen turn out to be remotely true, I don't think we're going to see more,
Yeah.
unless it is a very low cost production to make more.
Mm.
And my gut
Or
feeling
or
is that
using, yeah.
Jude Law's not cheap. And if you
No.
look at the showrunners and the directors that were involved in the project, they're not cheap either.
No.
Kids are probably cheap, ironically. Probably not so much for a second season. Um,
No.
but
I
yeah,
could see them.
I
I could
worry.
see them. Can you see them pulling those characters into other similar
I
timeline?
can see them appearing,
Yeah.
perhaps in some of the Mandalorian or Dave Filoni's movies,
Yeah. That's what I mean.
and I think it could be done in quite a clever way, and I think that's potentially the way forward with them.
Yeah.
And it probably to install some confidence in the fan base needs some clarity from Lucasfilm, where they just say, we're not going to be doing more Skeleton Crew, but you're going to see more of these characters or
Yes.
something
Yeah.
like that. I think
Yeah.
just to give the fan base a little bit of a lift, rather than going silent on it. I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't write it off. Just sort of include it a bit here and there, especially when it's effectively in the same timeline as The Mandalorian and all those other different series. Then there'd be nothing wrong with having some sort of interaction. That'd be absolutely fine.
Yep. Let's. Oh, wrong one. Let's not
Hello.
try that one instead.
What's
Uh,
he doing here?
let's check out and discuss the film as we sort of flick through some of the screenshots. from
Okay.
the film. So the episode 7 kicked off, and the parents were kind of in the woods trying to send up a contraption into uh, space to get a message to their kids, and
Felt
eventually,
very much like ET, didn't it?
yeah,
This.
it was very much ET phone home.
Yeah.
And eventually, Fern's mum was the one that was able to get up into space
Yeah.
um, and transmit the message before the droids stopped them. But up in space, unfortunately, is the pirates. And
Ooh.
good old Jod there with Brutus.
Yeah.
Um, and Jod having to make another impassioned plea as to this really is and we can really get there despite all the terrible zappy machines in the way.
Yeah.
SM-33 trying to back up Jod's position, and Brutus not really having much of it. And they decide to send this poor guy out in his fighter plane to um, see if he
He
could
just wants
survive going down to the
see if he
planet.
gets through the barrier. Yeah. Yeah.
And he pretty much got blown up. So Jod was put in the um, airlock about to be evacuated with the rest of the garbage. And meanwhile, the kids, they've also arrived back on the planet. And that was Jod's saving grace, because the pirates were able to maybe tractor beam the kids in,
Yeah.
with the idea being that this ship was going to be the one way they could get down to the planet. But of course, the kids used a little grabby hand thing on the ship to catch Brutus. And Jod, the lovely man that he is, decided that's my chance to shoot Brutus in the face, which I haven't shown here because typically YouTube would take that down. Um, but basically, the pirates then take control of the ship, Paul. So a very quick introduction to episode 7.
Yeah, yeah, it was a great episode. Really enjoyed it. I like the fact that he starts wearing his mask again as well.
Yep.
Very sort of like Mandalorian stroke Boosh, the bounty hunter kind of idea. Probably helping him to generate his different persona, but as Silvo. Yeah, really
As
great.
Chris pointed out, it was a brutal death for Brutus.
It was brilliant. Yeah, yeah, it was. It was like bang done.
And
And
this
why
is one of
not?
the things that the Skeleton Crew hasn't done well in terms of selling what it is, because it's a 12 plus rating
Yeah.
on Disney
Mm.
Plus. It's not for kids.
No, no. Just because it features kids doesn't mean it's for kids. No,
Yep.
absolutely.
The message the parents sent gets intercepted by the pirates,
Yeah,
and the kids do see it. Neil's dad's there. Neil's dad doesn't say a thing. This is going to be a recurring theme in the next 2 episodes. Neil's dad hates Neil. Let's be honest. He's a disappointment of a child, and he wants nothing to do with him, basically. He's quite glad that he's gone missing.
that's why he's
Um,
gone on to have so many others.
yeah. And Silvo kind of realizes that we can get down to this planet, and he'll use the parents against the kids, basically.
Yeah,
And it was interesting tactics, and SM-33 kind of gets involved and tries to be somewhat of a hero and fails.
tries to protect the kids, doesn't he? Yeah, yeah.
And Jod takes out SM-33.
Well, he loses his head, doesn't he? But and I think we all thought that was the end of him, but maybe not.
And they get down to the planet. I think I'm a bit early in him losing his head. I was just really excited about the fact he loses his head. But they get down to
That's
the
a good.
planet and get past all the kind of explosion barrier devices, because it's a um, Republic embassy ship. So it's got clearance to land. I was early in killing off
You
SM-33, but it
were.
dies in a
Well,
minute.
I was as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted him dead early.
Yes.
But they get to see that,
The,
and Jod gets to
well, we didn't realize that Jod had
kill
stowed away, did we?
SM-33.
There
Um,
we go.
which was great. I loved it. Chris is suggesting that Max Rebo may be Neil's dad after all. It could be. That could be the reason of tension there. It could be. Everybody forgot that Jod had a lightsaber. And then the highlight of the show for me, episode 7, Neil before Jod.
Dear me.
The end. And this was the start, I thought, of brilliant acting from Jude Law as well. He was really great across these scenes, especially when he told Wim that he's the one he hates the most.
Yeah, he was really quite nasty to the kids, isn't he? Poor
Yeah,
Wim was breaking his
I
heart.
loved it. It was brilliant. And can I point out, I'm going to really criticise some of the characters. I'm not criticising the actors. I thought the actors were phenomenal, all of them, all of the kids' actors. And that's why I can hate them so much, because their performances were so good.
Oh, dear.
Grumpy Pants herself, she wasn't happy with Jod.
No, not
But
happy.
there we go. There's a nice shot of them all kneeling before Jod. And just for extra effect, he brings out his lightsaber as well. There we also get a great shot of SM-33 there.
Yeah.
And that's where he should have stayed, dead. But he doesn't. We'll come back to that. Meanwhile, the safety droids have rounded up the parents, who are all there except for Neil's dad, because Neil's dad wasn't out looking for him or trying to rescue him or anything, because he doesn't care. Hates Neil.
He's doing some music sort of rehearsals with Max Rebo apparently. So yeah, he's playing the flute.
Jack's just joined the comments as well. Welcome, Jack. We're just talking Skeleton Crew and our thoughts on the last 2 episodes. I kind of like the look of these safety droids throughout the whole thing. It was a great design. And I'm including this just because I thought it was a nice image. I wanted more and expected more from A'an's history and past and the
Yeah.
sort of ancient graphics and that was shown and the murals that were shown throughout the show. Never really played a part, to be honest.
No, I suppose in some ways it's nice to keep the mystery, isn't it? It's just there as background.
Yep. So Judd and the kids coming down to land, and I was going to call it the school football pitch. And everybody comes out to watch the embassy arrive. Big hole emerges in the grass, sinkhole of sorts. And Judd lands, gets out, ship's there. Safety droids holding back a parents, and there, I'm presuming, I don't know this for sure, but I'm
Come
presuming
on.
it's got to
Yay!
be Team Runa's mum and dad, isn't it?
Is that the dad, the blue one?
I think your dad's the blue one. And you know why I think that? Is because if one of the babies came out blue, then she's got an excuse because she's been hooking up with Neil's dad. And that's why Neil's never around, because he's round at Runa's mum's house. That's my working theory. Has to be
Oh
true.
dear.
It has to be Runa's mum and dad, isn't it?
It's gotta be, yeah.
And the blueness is there so she can get away with an affair with Neil's dad. That's that. I think that's
Is that
pretty much fact now. If the Skeleton Crew doesn't continue, we'll just call that fact.
who's that lurking behind Runa's dad?
I don't know.
That's
An
not Neil's
extra?
dad.
No. No. Anyway, the kids and the ship go down the shaft down into the bank vaults, so to speak, and we get an insight into how much credits are getting stored up here. And this is Vault 1 of 1,139.
Which is one better than 1138.
It is. Jod, he's as happy as Laurie with all that cash. It's like Scrooge McDuck, wasn't it, when he dived in?
Yeah. Scrooge McDuck. That's a deep dive. I
That's
like
a deep
that.
dive reference there. I was going to say it's like Elon Musk, but there we go. Kids' parents come to meet the kids, apart from Neil's dad. Neil's dad doesn't care, doesn't show up.
Gone down the shops.
Neil's mum gets a big hug. Oh. And so do all the other parents. Women Windle Fern, I can never remember Fern's mum's name, but
No, no. I know she's important.
then we got what I thought was going to be the highlight of the episode. So not only have we seen a droid decapitated, which obviously I loved, Jod then whips out his lightsaber and it's like pointed right, like he's like going to take out Neil and Neil's mum. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to see some violence here. But no, no, that the episode ended at this point with the lightsaber out, and I was well up for it. I was delighted. I thought some of those kids are going to have it, and I was like trying to decide: do I want another decapitated victim, or do I want them to get like the 3 stabs like Jackie got in the Acolyte? And that was my choice all week between episode 7 and episode 8. Is
Is
how
that
did
what
I
kept
want
you?
Neil to die
That kept you going all week.
all week? And just no, didn't happen. Were you as equally as disappointed, Paul, at that of it lack of death?
I I kind of suspected that they weren't going to get run through with a lightsaber.
Ah,
Um, I was chuffed a bit that it picked up straight away in the next episode and was resolved pretty quickly. Another good thing that could have happened would have been if, say, a Jedi turned up and they started battling, but that didn't happen.
Chris is saying Neil is the best. No kill Neil. I'm sorry, but like after what he did to Runa, he was like expressed his love for Runa and then just abandoned her for that other
He'll
at whatever planet girl. Ah.
he'll make it up to her. That'll be like the spin-off. It'll be like the Joni and Chachi of Happy Days. That's what it's going to be.
Jack's saying today's show, who's more evil, Judd or Brian?
Brian.
I just had a thing, right? They were trying to show tributes to the 1980s and films like The Goonies. If you just brought in at this point Neil's brother and had Neil's brother stomping his head to leave him looking like Sloth, that would have been the ultimate tribute. But
Oh,
no.
uh,
Basically, instead of killing them, Judd turned around and said, I'm a Jedi, I'm a lovely good guy, I've saved your children and returned them home to you.
yeah,
Loser.
yeah.
Absolute
Do,
loser.
do you think he was a Jedi? I mean, he goes on to explain later on that he was found by a Jedi, but
Well,
again, was that the truth or was he just
earlier this
lying?
year on IMDb, which granted anyone can edit, but tends to be agents and managers that get overexcited and put up people that they work for's details earlier.
Yeah,
There was an actress was listed as playing John's mother, effectively.
right.
And that never happened. So I don't know if it got filmed and just didn't ever make air. But I thought there was going to be more to Jod. And I think he did at one point. Uh, um, I think at one point in I think it was episode 8, he refers to being trained by a woman who was hunted down and killed by the Jedi.
Yeah.
So I think he got some rudimental training, and I'm thinking that
I, th
lady was probably his mother.
I think she was a Jedi and was hunted down and killed.
Chris is saying his school romances were very throwaway. They meant nothing. I'm just saying that Neil's got a woman on every planet. It's like whether it's the prostitutes on the pirate planet to the all the other women on the at whatever planets. Terrible. Neil just cast Runa aside. We'll come back to it. We'll come back to it. It's just I think that's why Neil's dad hates him. Um, And the best part was, of course, John tries to get women more trouble by saying he was a worse behaved child as well, which I thought, yeah, really stick it to him. And the droids take the parents and the kids away. And then Jod offers up the chance for Fern, who was being irritating as far as Jod was concerned, to, why don't you come and see the supervisor? Meanwhile, the rest of the kids all go home with their parents. And we get a nice microwave meal.
Hey,
Which
now
when I
this is
saw
what we
that,
want.
I thought Neil's gone straight for the food. But it
This is what we
wasn't. It
want
was
in
Women's
Star
dad
Wars.
who'd gone for the microwavable meal for the evening. whilst being closely supervised by the safety droids for their own protection.
Yeah. See, now I've got issues here. I mean, just because he's a single dad doesn't mean he's resorting to the microwave. Why wasn't he making him a meal from fresh vegetables? What's going on here?
That's true. That's fair. That's a very good point. Meanwhile, Fern and her mother and Jod, they're going to see the supervisor in the elevator. And Wim's trying to contact Neil, but Neil's having none of it because, as Neil claims, Neil's being watched by droids. We'll come back to this comment in a moment. Uh, um, and they head up to the supervisor, and we find out that the supervisor's Hal. And it's just like, oh, come on, that's a little bit too much, people. But yeah, it's confirmed that the supervisor is no more than a droid.
It very much reminded me of the end of World's End, which was
Yes,
voiced
yeah.
by
The Cornetto
Ilnay, I think.
trilogy,
Yeah,
Ethan
yeah,
Edgar Wright.
yeah, yeah. It was very much like that.
And Judd basically calls him out. And Fern's mum's well aware that they're being controlled by a droid, that is how the great work is supposed to operate. Everybody's supposed to be
Yeah,
controlled by droids. Shocking. Why could you allow that to happen?
I know.
But it tells you the dangers of droid who anyway. The droids basically attack Jod, and Jod gets his lightsaber out again, and he does a Qui-Gon and gives it a good old stab and a little twirl right in the eye. And the supervisor
All,
dies, and all the power in the city goes out.
all the droids shut down.
Yep,
Even the vehicles stopped, didn't they? Yeah.
there we go. There's a shutdown droid, and Wim's watching it from his house. Um, Chris pointing out here, and we're going to get to this point in a moment. Can I just point out in the middle of the night when everyone was sleeping, Neil was in the bath, seemingly in the middle of the night when the pirates arrive. I'm going to come back to that. Um, when Hal, I'm just going to call the supervisor Hal from now on, dies, a little button, because we like buttons, and the skeleton crew comes out, a little lever this time, just to change it up, comes out that if you pull it, the barrier will come down. Critical point here. Fern gets a little bit mouthy, so Jod has to take his lightsaber out again. And in the meanwhile, he also contacts the pirates to tell them, just you come in and land. And there we
Hey.
go, aforementioned Neil. Neil, who's being watched by droids, decides to strip off and get in the bath. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Not got his hair wet, so it's clearly not.
No,
It's not a
he's
hair
just
washing
doing it
day,
for show.
just a
And
bath day.
whilst Neil's having a bath, his parents are outside in the garden for some inexplicable reason. Neil's dad round at Runa's mum's house. Uh, I include this picture because one of these childs is the child that stomped on Neil's head, and thus is a hero in my eyes.
Do you think it's the one that's being held?
I would like to think so.
Yeah, bit more weighty.
The other two look like twins.
Yeah.
It is odd. It is odd that he was in the bath. I thought.
Yeah, but he'd had a big adventure.
Yeah.
Probably just he needed it.
Jack also agreeing that it's disturbing that Fern's mum knew all along and they were being controlled by droids.
Yeah,
You would have thought it was a great big secret, but it wasn't. And there we go. There's the twins. Just a lovely
brilliant.
picture there because I'm just a lovely guy. Oops, I should have had my phone on silent there. Excuse me. Uh, um, Neil gets out the bath, back on his same stinking dungarees, and jumps on his
Yeah, what
speeder.
was the point of the bath? Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And jumps on the speeder with KB, and they go around to Wim's house because their speeders still work, even though everything else that's on the
Everything
rail,
else stopped. Yeah,
everything
that
that's on
was
the
a bit
tram
weird.
rail doesn't work
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
Um, uh, Wendell, he notices Harrison Ford's character from American Graffiti on his bike, so he beats up a child and steals his bike.
Which is fair
It's
enough. Yeah,
basically what's happened there, it would appear.
yeah, yeah. Quite right.
Um, Jack's pointing out he finds it odd that Chris has never washed his trunk when being attacked by pirates at night. And Wendell joins the kids and heading towards the supervisor tower. Meanwhile, which I thought was a wonderful scene, the pirates, they were so happy when they were coming out of their ship and then
They
their
were.
skiffs, ready to kill and maim and steal money. Just so much joy. And it's just, that's what you want to see, isn't it? It's just happiness. It's what you want on your TV set.
In answer to an earlier question, Brian, you are clearly more evil than Jod.
No, no, no. They're calling them pirates, but who's to say it's illegal in Artatan? And anyway, they start taking control because these people need to be kept in line. They've been controlled by droids for years.
Yeah.
So now they need to get some humans back in charge. It's basically what's happening here. And Vance, he's loving it. He's having the time of his life. Never had so much fun. And the kids, they're whizzing through the woods because, you've got to have your ET tribute in there. And everything's sort of blowing up round about them. So yeah, they had some really great special effects in this final episode. It went really quick.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and we see that the droids are loading up the Jud's ship. I'm calling it Jud's ship now. The Onyx Cinder's getting loaded up with credits. Getting a fair few credits there.
It's a wonder it could take off.
Jack making a point that after all this, the pirates never got to see those credits. It's a shame. I'm going to come back to the credits, though. It's a problem. It's something we're facing in the UK at the moment as well. We'll come back to that. The ship is clamped down. It was one of the security measures we saw back in episode 7. And so, despite their plans to get off planet and send a message to get help, they can't. So they have to organise themselves into some kind of A-team. And Women as Dad and Neil all get various tasks to go and free the ship from the clamps. Jod, he's trying to coordinate everything. Fern's trying to convince her mum to push the lever or pull the lever. Neil's dad turned up again, inexplicably out of nowhere. He's carrying the twins, which makes me think maybe one of the twins is the one that stomped on Neil's head, and thus the dad shows him favour. That's just a working theory. But I don't know
I like
why
how
his dad inexplicably appears and then doesn't appear. My one assumption is maybe his animatronic mask, costume, CGI just wasn't as developed as the rest of them. And so it was easier not to have him in scenes because his appearances and then lack of appearance, it's random and it's very odd.
he's just aloof. He just couldn't give a stuff.
Other than that, my other working theory is that he's with Runa's mum. That's what I think. And Women Wendell, they're off on their adventure and they're going to try and release the clamps. And their kind of way in is to come up the elevator in the supervisor tower, and Wim comes out and distracts Jod whilst the dad sneaks in and pushes another button. And it frees the clamps, which allows KB to take off and kind of escape the planet. And unfortunately, because she fixes things, she's fixed SM-33 just when we thought he was dead, Paul.
I know. Droids never die, Brian. I do apologize. They just get broken up and put back together again.
Neil's thought of what he could do is to turn to violence. So he goes looking for the gun on top of the school because he remembers that from when he was mucking around with his new girlfriend on the other planet, instead of focusing on Runa, who he's been back and had time to get a bath, but hasn't been in touch with Runa, and all this time he's been back on the planet, which I thought was poor. Anyway,
Would you like to? Would you like to have seen them reunited?
No, I think Runa's better than him. She's moved on. KB escapes from the planet, which was a lovely shot. Really, really lovely shot.
Yeah.
And she contacts the owl
Mm.
um, called Kim. I remembered her
That's
name,
right.
Kim, who contacts the Republic. And what's the Republic's response? Oh, we'll be there straight away because there's money involved. After
Yeah.
stealing the wages of the hard-working civil servants in Andor, they
Now,
want the chance
now,
to steal more money.
stop it with your political allegiance.
No,
Come
I'm
on.
just pointing out. Go back to Hal, the supervisor. His first comment was to Jod was that the last message they got from the Republic was a warning that the Jedi were evil, and so that basically means that the Emperor warned them, "Oh, to watch out for these bad Jedi," and then left them. Never came and collected any taxes or took their money that had been making away from them. Left them alone. The kind of government you want, standoff government. Just you get on and do your own thing. Never interfered with the planet. The whole 20, 30 years he was in power. Left them to
But he
their own
couldn't if he was
devices,
dead.
you know. And within 5 seconds, the Republic hear about the money and they're turning up. Shocking. And but KB kind of gets shot out there and does a little dive, which gives Fern her last opportunity to break out into tears.
Oh,
And then they opt to um, they have a long little saga where they are we going to pull the lever? Are we not going to pull the lever? Wim goes to pull it, but then Jod takes a lightsaber to Windle, so he doesn't pull it, and it becomes a big thing. Just going back there, like Windle showing violence to his child there, the rolled up fist, and he
yeah, not
attacks
to the
Jod.
child. The
Well,
child saw it,
that's
wasn't
true. In front of the child,
it?
kind of parroting, just punch Jod right in the face. So uncalled for,
Yeah,
uncouth. Um, and he goes to pull the lever, and all of a sudden his fingers get bendy,
yeah.
and it turns out Jod's got his force abilities to bend his fingers back, which I thought was brilliant. I loved that.
Nice. I can't do that. No, I can't do
And
that.
but whilst Jod was bending Windle's fingers, Fern convinces her mum to pull the lever, and she does, which was sad for everyone, which means the barrier's down. We
And the
get
lights
Jod
came on.
illuminated in the light of the barrier coming down. Some great visuals as well with the barrier coming
Yeah,
down.
yeah. I think the whole idea of the barrier was brilliant, and it looked great. And then,
Yeah,
like you
I
say,
really enjoyed it. Um,
yeah,
and it's revealed, and Neil's watching, and Neil's dad's there is watching as well. Just pointing out that's his third appearance of the episode.
keen
No
astronomer.
longer holding the children. So it's very unclear where the kids have gone, the two twins.
Probably eating them.
Probably. Um, and immediately the Republic turn up because there's money there. That's all they're about.
Yeah,
Bloodthirsty, tax stealing Republic wanting your money. When the Emperor, he was like, just you keep your cash. I don't want it. I will fund my own government. He said, I don't need your money.
I'll
Republic
mint some
straight
money.
away. And they start attacking the pirates without radioing them and saying, "Excuse me, what's going on here?" or doing any kind of investigation. They just immediately just start shooting at them, which I thought was very uncalled for. And blow up. I was going to call
This
it
is
Brutus's ship, but it's no longer Brutus's ship, I guess.
well, no, I suppose it's Jod's, isn't it? I suppose,
Yeah.
but I love the way it crashed into the ground and then just sort of like it didn't completely destroy; it sort of just burnt out. That was great.
And then we got a very fast conclusion to the episode at this point, I thought. The
Yeah,
kids and their parents would go into the elevator and they kind of call for Jod to come with them.
yeah,
And Jod just looks at them and then he kind of looks out the window at effectively his life falling apart. That's all he knows,
yeah.
piloting. And just without saying a word, I thought it was beautifully acted by Jude Law. Just The way that
Yeah.
he held himself there, I thought was just really nice.
He played
And
it really well throughout. Yeah.
as you said, incredible special effects as the ship crashed as well.
Yeah.
Um, Jack agreeing as well that it wrapped up really quick.
Yeah.
And the kids go and find KB, who's lying in a mound of money, but she's okay. And she's alive. And so is that horrid droid, which was a really sad ending. Um, and just to show that they were after the money, that they didn't just send fighting ships, they sent a Carillion Corvette, I think would be the correct terminology for that kind of ship,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they wanted somewhere to put the money. Basically, a cargo ship is what they sent.
Yeah. There's some debate over whether it's the Tantive 4 or not, but apparently, according to Mark, when I spoke to Mr. Newbold earlier, he said that he didn't think it would be due to other sources. It would be elsewhere in the galaxy at that point in time. But you never know. They may have rewritten things. But yeah, it was great to see that on screen. And the X-Wings and the B-Wings. Brilliant stuff.
Yeah. And that was the end of the episode. So we
Yeah.
never really know what happens to Jod. Um, the mystery and was just that it was sort of where they made the money kind of thing, which I thought was a little bit weak in the way that they built it up. It didn't really deliver. It did in regards to, I guess it was pirates wanting their silver, basically. But
Yeah.
my point, and this is very similar to the UK at the moment, is that you've got the Republic and they're going to gather up all these old Republic credits, flood the market with them, and it's just going to devalue them. So all this hard work and money, it's all for nothing. All these people all around the galaxy that have stored up their old Republic credits and they're worth a lot of money, and then the new Republic, they're going to come along and just flood the market with these credits, and it's going to crash. It's going to be like Bitcoin going from 100,000 down to 1,000.
So it should have been called episode 8. Here we go with inflation again.
Yeah,
There you go.
Republic
There you
inflationary policies.
go. They've
So
missed
yeah, if
they've
you're
missed the
sitting on
point.
Tatooine and you've got a box full of old Republic credits and you're just solely using them up, making a lot of money from it because they're rare and got a high value, and all of a sudden
Flood at the market.
1,139 volts of Old Republic credits flood the market. You're worth nothing.
It's like trying to sell a Rose Tico Black Series figure, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Good
Cost you
Lord.
20 quid. You'd be lucky if you get two.
Just be glad for the shelf space, to be honest.
So they've definitely left a massive opening for a second season. But
Yeah.
the ratings, according to Nielsen, who've released the ratings for the first two episodes, it did poor. It did worse than the Acolyte. So if it's got a similar kind of
Mm.
budget to the Acolyte, I'm not sure it does. I think this is a cheaper show on the
Mm.
basis that, um, you know, the Acolyte was filmed a lot on location in the UK, where this was really being filmed on stage. Probably cheaper. That's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. So maybe it doesn't need to hit the Acolyte numbers, but it's not a good sign for this show. It's not a good sign for Star Wars overall.
I think there's more chance that we'll see the characters appear as guests, if you like,
Yeah.
in other TV shows and films. Which is a shame because I think, it would be nice to see what happens with Jod, what happens with the kids. So yeah. Again, I think this has suffered greatly from the perception and the viewing figures
It
of the
really
follow.
didn't do enough to convince people or sell the fact
No,
it's not a kids show.
it
And
wasn't
the fact it
massively
was rated
promoted.
12 plus tells you it's not a
Yeah,
kids show.
yeah, yeah. Oh well, there you go. We enjoyed it, and that's the
We
main thing.
enjoyed it. Tremendous acting from the four
Yeah,
kids, from Jude Law, from everyone else that was in it as well.
yeah.
And that's why I feel able to criticise the characters. Because when they're acted well, you care about them. And I hate Neil so much.
How
And
can
I
you hate
praise the
Neil?
actor for making me hate him so much.
Is
But
it
I'll
because of
always just
Runa?
be
Yeah, it's because of
Team
him.
Runa for life, you know. But yeah, poor Neil. We'll never
Is
know what the story is with Neil's dad. That's the sad
no,
thing.
no. I think he's definitely having an affair.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely Runa's mum, and that's why Runa's married to a blue-colored person.
to try and hide the
Not to be prejudiced against blue-colored people in the Star Wars galaxy, but you know, it just seems a coincidence there.
I expect Fanta
Jack saying
Pops.
he'd like to see proof of the numbers for the show. Yeah, uh, normally when these numbers come out and it's from uh, various small companies that specialize in streaming services, I'm very questionable of them. The fact that these numbers came from Nielsen makes me think they're accurate because Nielsen's the top company in the game. Um, Mr. Newbold, it was all gorgeous. We'll say he's meaning gorgeous. Kids were great. Music was spot on. Neil's king of all media. Oh, the music was great in this show.
It was,
It
yeah.
was. I loved it. It was so different from what we're kind of used to.
It was
Um,
different, but it felt like it fit with everything else that John
yeah.
Williams had done. It was
um,
weird.
Jack making it leaves you wanting more. It does, and not in the sort of negative um, way that the Acolyte did. In that the Acolyte did it in a way which made you think, "Oh, I wish they had Plagueis rather
Mm.
throughout the show. I wish they had Yoda throughout the show."
Yeah,
That was the wrong way to leave you wanting more. That was
yeah.
like, we could do this if you gave us more to do, but we haven't, is basically what they did. This one
Well,
makes you want more from these characters. There's not
yeah,
necessarily a story to continue other than how the Republic waste all that money.
yeah.
That's something that needs investigated. It's like putting Rachel Reeves in charge is basically what they've done. So by the time the First Order war comes around, they don't have new spacecraft and they have to
Mm.
ask for people to join the fight in episode 9 because they don't have a fully funded army. You know, this is why you should have 3% towards your fighting force, as Donald Trump tells us. You know, there's so many lessons in real life coming out in this show. But yeah, the Republic clearly took all that money, put Rachel Reeves in charge, blew it all, and lost it all. Shocking. But
How
yeah,
on earth we've managed to bring Rachel Reeves into this
yeah,
is
we've
is
managed to go
genius.
full circle, Paul.
Fantastic.
But yeah, it's a shame that um, it's ended in kind of this way. I think if it doesn't continue, I hope that they appear elsewhere.
Yeah,
Um, but the interesting, but they had really nice graphics at the end, which I thought were lovely. Which was basically Wim's tales,
mm.
and they added one last one, which was the kids on top of the um, onyx cinder as well.
Yeah, yeah,
And as it panned out, it was the skeleton crew on a data pad, which is very the Whills
yeah,
story of Star Wars.
yeah.
Or if you want to be cynical, the skeleton crew never really happened, and it was just a story within a story.
Well, yeah. Yeah. I hadn't thought of it like that, but yeah.
Um, Jack asking the question: would be up for a season 2?
I would have loved a season two, but based on what you've just been saying, I doubt it'll happen. But I do think that it would be a shame not to catch up with these characters at some point. I think they'll end up in one of the films, um, maybe supporting some of the other characters, supporting Mando or whatever. Um, and also they'll be that little bit older, so it'll be a bit different anyway. But yeah, season two. Where would you have gone with it though for season two? I suppose. I mean,
I
it's
don't know.
quite a
You're kind of,
self-contained story.
the showrunner suggested that they had an idea of skipping forward 4 or 5 years
Yeah,
and doing something,
yeah.
um, which
It
would be
could be
interesting.
Jod. Yeah, it could be Jod rebuilding his life and rebuilding an army of pirates and just taking out personal vengeance against the kids. It could be something as simple as that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it,
Well,
and
it'd
I
be
would
interesting
welcome the
because
season.
and suddenly, doesn't have money.
Yeah.
Suddenly not isolated. There's an interesting angle to be explored there. If you're no longer isolated,
No.
what's it like discovering that you missed out on being ruled by the greatest chancellor you ever had in Palpatine, and it's been replaced with
Well,
Mon
I mean,
Mothma and Leah
if
Organa.
they've got all those vaults of credits, they're going to need protection, aren't they? So they're going to have some sort of security force on there from the New Republic. So
They're going to have the same effect as basically, becoming part of the Republic is as voting Labour in as your government. The value that you've got in your pocket's going to just crush. Your exchange rate's going to collapse and inflation's going to go through the roof. It's just that's what they're facing on that. And
well, and this is what's going to happen. The moisture farmers on Tatooine aren't going to get the subsidies that they were once
no,
getting,
that's what there's going to be protests.
and all the old people, they're all going to sort
Yeah,
of
if
suffer.
if
They're
you're
going
an
to be
old
told,
person living on Hoth, whew,
yeah,
you've got a bad winter coming. No winter heating allowance for you.
all those old people living on a Hoth, yeah.
Jack throwing in a very interesting comment there. Imagine if Jod was to team up with Thrawn for some cash.
Why not?
The
Yeah.
question is, did the pirates live a second time after surviving the acid bath, where they all screamed and died and all came back to life? Do we think? Do you think they're going to get tortured and killed by the Republic?
Did we see them die?
No, not really.
No. So maybe some of them got away and they'll be regrouping. Who knows? Um, I mean, we saw a lot of them. Well, we saw the ship crash, didn't we?
Yeah,
But as for the ones that were in their little skiffs, did any of them survive? I mean, Vane was in it quite a bit,
he
but
was.
didn't
He
really.
was having the time of his life.
Yeah, it didn't really do much or say much, did it? Yeah.
No, he was just flying about cheering. He was just happy as Larry. Um,
Uh,
None of these kids turn up at to assault the Emperor at the end of the saga, the Skywalker saga, with the
at the
rest of
end
the
of Rise
ships. We
of
don't see the
Skywalker.
Onyx Cinder. We don't see these kids turn up. Do you think that's because they realised that living under Imperial rule would have been greater than living under the Republic?
I think much like you, they would have thoroughly enjoyed it.
I think so. I think they've missed out. Never known the governments from Palpatine. Sad.
Well, if they
Um,
liked living under droids, then they're going to like
yeah.
living under Palpatine, aren't they?
The actors that played Wim and Fern, I thought were tremendous throughout. Stand out.
Yeah,
The kids, I think they've got great careers ahead of them as well.
yeah.
Um, Neil has caught the imagination of the internet, that's for sure. Wrongly, obviously, but as a
And
character, I can see um, him reappearing because there's a element of love for that character. And KB
yeah,
had her moments as well. I wish that she got more as an actress to get her teeth into a little bit.
I think
I
it was
think she was
episode
maybe
six.
underserved a little bit compared to the rest of them.
Yeah, episode six. That was her show, really, wasn't it? That's where she got a chance to shine. I think it
Yeah.
was five or six. It was six. Yeah, but overall, very enjoyable.
Yes. And I think on that note, we'll bring this week's Bon Voyage to a close. And just a reminder, and let's get rid of that. Bon Voyage is part of Good Morning Tatooine, your weekly recap of all the latest Star Wars news. Normally streaming on Sunday, but streaming tonight on Wednesday. We'll be back this Sunday, however, with Mr. Mark Newbold being my co-presenter as Mr. Naylor here takes the weekend off. Bon Voyage will also be released as part of Father Tracks TV, and obviously this is the last episode of Bon Voyage, so it's a fond farewell from us.